What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back with another stream. It's Sunday morning. We've got quite a few things to touch on. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of noticeable stuff to talk about. Maybe not too many like groundbreaking or brand new things that are gonna wreck the rest of your season, which is good. But definitely some tweaks and some things that might hold some guys back. So we're gonna dive into that. We're gonna talk about some lineup decisions. We will talk about a few rumors that are out there, or maybe some potential changes, and one that's already happened. So um, kind of strange actually. We had a trade happen after one team played and before the other played, so it had to be noted that like players cannot play twice in the same week. Like that's not a thing. Kind of a new neat little, I don't know, the neat little new nuance to it, I guess is the word I was looking for. But anyway, so we got plenty to keep us busy for the next hour and a half or so, and I hope that you stop by and join us. If you are new, if you're watching off stream and you're new, please hit that like button and that subscribe button. That subscribe button will get you notifications to let you know anytime we go live, so you can join us and give us some feedback, or shoot the shit a little bit. So definitely do that if you wanna catch us next time, and we definitely appreciate it. So let's get started.
Yes, sir. Let's get started with these injuries. I think you've got them written down maybe right in front of you if you want to kind of like go through them or whatever, and then we could talk about them.
Okay, yeah. So the injuries that we have here, let's see. We have, I mean, kind of the big one I think right now is Christian McCaffrey did officially get placed on IR. That is a super bummer for CMC owners. It's kind of what we were worried about when he first got hurt, is that the Panthers didn't manage his injury well last year, and the potential was there for there to be an extended time frame. They were a little vague on it, but they kept implying that things would be all right, and they're not. So CMC looks like he's going to miss at least 6 full weeks because he just got put on IR, so that's a 3 week minimum. Chuba Hubbard is going to be pretty valuable over the next 3 weeks or so. Um, is he coming back this year? Where are we at with that?
I think so. I think now that they've done what they were supposed to in the first place, which was put him on IR, so he will he basically he won't be doing anything at practice, which like the previous couple weeks he was, even though he wasn't playing in the games, he was out there practicing. I think he sat legitimately, didn't do anything for 1 week. And then after that he was practicing and then not active, practicing not active, and it would seem now that he probably pushed himself a little bit too far and re-injured re-aggravated the same hamstring. So now he goes on IR, and now at this point I don't think they don't do any activity in that time frame, I don't believe. So because of that, I think yeah, he comes back, but they just, hopefully Carolina learns from this and McCaffrey learns from this, and they don't push it too quickly again. Because they could do that. I could see them potentially doing that again, especially depending on how these next few games go for them. If they're winning or losing games, they might feel a little pressure to push it back, and then he could probably get hurt again. I can tell you this: if you have Hubbard and then McCaffrey comes back and gets activated in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, there's no chance I would drop Hubbard at that point. You know how you do that sometimes
Yeah.
when you got a guy that's hurt and then someone comes back and you're like, okay, I can cut this other guy now because the starter's back. No chance I'm doing that. If I've got McCaffrey and I got Hubbard, I am holding tight
Oh yeah.
because it is concerning. Just based off what we saw last year, it makes it very concerning. But yeah, I think he will be back.
I can guarantee you that CMC will not be the top fantasy overall player in next year's draft.
No, no,
We
probably
saw a
not.
little bit. He is probably in like a Saquon Barkley territory where it's like we know that he could be that top dude, but we also know that he could have this happen. This is round two in 2 years, so we saw Barkley go anywhere from like 2 or 3 in fantasy drafts this offseason to when we were doing our mocks to 9. I think was the lowest we saw Barkley fall, and like I think that's probably where we're expecting CMC to be the next year, even if he comes back, healthy after this IR stint.
Right. Think about those running backs, man, in that first round: McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Saquon. You kind of knew you were probably buying into a little bit of problem there, which it's proved to be so far. Like he just got right, and now he's hurt again. But yeah, man, these running backs. That's the thing with these running backs. You want them because there's not many of them, but they are also so prone to getting hurt. It's and we're dealing with it.
Well, and half step beyond that too is like you want all of the volume until like it's too much, right?
Yeah, until they can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's like I want all the touches, but like also keep my dude healthy.
right.
So yeah, so that's where we're at. That's where we're at with CMC. We have I don't know. I almost feel like it's fair to just mention all these together because they're so similar. But we've got a bunch of these injuries that could affect guys and their performance this week, but they're going to be out there. We've got Mike Williams has a knee injury. Terry McLaurin has a hamstring. Tyreek Hill has a quad. Let's see. There were a couple others that I think were in the same group, but maybe aren't as notable. I also had Gibson with the shin, but he's been playing through that for a while. Hockenson, he's been managing an injury kind of poorly so far. So
Swift, groin managing that, still going to play.
Still going to play. Actually, so with
Yep.
that situation, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift have both been on the injury report, but I feel a lot better about Swift and what he brings to the table this week. Jamal Williams seemed like he had some kind of bad news earlier this week, and then they're making it sound like he might play. Maybe I should slow down a little bit. There's a little more to get into, I think, than I. But those other guys I mentioned, you got Hill. You have
Yeah.
you have a few receivers out there that have leg injuries, and that's concerning. So I think what we're doing with them is we're gonna say, okay, they're playing, and I'm gonna maybe drop them to the next level if they're wide receiver 1. I might bump them to a wide receiver 2, and then just kind of play off of it like that. I think that the upside with those leg injuries will cap those guys.
Well, the concern you always like if you have Tyreek Hill and he's active, you're going to play him. Same thing, Terry McLaurin. Same thing with Mike Williams. Like if they're active, you're playing them, and it seems like they all are expected to play today. So you're kind of handcuffed because you're going to start them unless you're just completely loaded at that position, and you have some sort of better option. I just can't imagine you would. I guess with Mike Williams you would because he was drafted so late, but just with how productive he's been, like how do you sit that guy if he's active?
Right.
But yeah, you have that concern where they could go out there and not finish a game. They could be out their first series because oh man, I thought my quad was good, but I think it's not because it's hard to mimic that real like actual game speed until they're out there. But it's just one of those things you have to deal with as a fantasy player, where you decide if you want to risk it or not. And I almost always tend to lean on the side of like I'm playing my guys. If they're active, I'm playing them, and I'm hoping that they're able to finish a game. It is concerning. I don't know. I'm worried for Tyreek because of his speed, just because of how he plays.
Defenses have been keeping a cap on him all year too. Like that's been a clear like approach to the Kansas City
Yeah.
offense.
Yeah, it's such a great matchup though against Washington. They have been so disappointing this year. I just don't know how you don't play him. And same thing, Mike Williams. I'm really concerned with Mike Williams' injury. There's all the Twitter doctors out there have been very. They've all talked about how concerned they are that they think Mike Williams could end up dealing with a bone bruise, something of that nature, and that there's potential for like multiple weeks here if him missing. So the fact that we saw on Friday that he was actually going to give it a go was a little bit surprising. But that doesn't mean that he actually. I guess I mean we'll have to pay attention when it gets closer to game time. He hasn't actually been activated yet. But even if he is, that just makes me so nervous to play him.
Well, what happens to me when I think of some of these big name guys is like totally agree that you're in a position where you're starting these guys regardless, and what sucks about it is that it's probably with some of them like Tyreek Hill, I'm running out there too, and I'm running him out there as my wide receiver 1, but especially with the way he's been this year, with a little less consistency than he's had the last couple of years, like I'm kind of bummed out about that. But the next place my mind goes is like, is this a greater opportunity for a Josh Gordon? Because like if Tyreek Hill with 2 safeties over the top with a quad injury is out there, to me that kind of screams decoy. And so then I'm like, okay, well maybe this is a game where if I'm really looking at a flyer as my flex, like maybe, and I'm not saying I think he's going to hit, but like I think it's more likely that somebody like a Josh Gordon or a complimentary player might be able to take advantage of that decoy situation. I hate that the decoy thing is a thing. I do.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I think that screams decoy to me. It may not be the case, but I think that it just seems like that's what's going on, and there might be some other opportunities.
Maybe. I mean, obviously you've got Kelsey, who has potential to really eat here because of maybe Tyreek Hill not being 100%. But Hardman had 12 targets this past week.
Yeah.
Is he the one that benefits from that? Again, he's very good at being like a disappearing act, doing that one week and then just completely disappearing the next. So I'm not going to bank on any sort of consistency there. But he did get 12 targets last week, so maybe he's the guy. I feel like Josh Gordon probably just still isn't. I think he had one target. He caught it, but I think he had one target last week, his first week active. It just kind of goes back to what I had said when Josh Gordon first signed with the Chiefs. I mean, I was surprised to see him activated and out there that quickly. But my thought was, like, he's got to learn the playbook. He's got to learn the playbook. He's got to understand where he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to do, and then also just get back into game shape. So I don't know, or this is only his second game that he'll be there. So I don't really expect him to be out of the field a ton, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Mike Williams is in my flex. Do I start Myers or let it ride? Yeah, that's what we were just talking about, man. Are you the team that you're playing against in that league? Are they got a pretty solid roster where you feel like you're going to need to put up those points this week? Because Myers, at least like you're not risking going into the game that he's dealing with an injury that could put him out at any moment. But obviously the upside is so different there. Like Myers can't touch what Mike Williams can do as far as his statistics in the game.
There is another little factor to this that makes it even more tough, I think, to decipher. But Diggs is questionable, or he's a game time decision, a true game time decision. So even if Trayvon Diggs, Dallas is like best corner, maybe the best corner in the league so far with all the interceptions he's had, might not play, and if he does, he's likely to be banged up. I mean, that is a slight bump for Myers, but I don't know that Myers was the style of receiver that would have really taken advantage of Diggs not being out there anyway.
Right. Agreed. I am the type that, if I'm just like generally answering that question, I am the type that's gonna go with Mike Williams usually, and knowing what I'm risking, knowing that there's potential that he doesn't finish a game. But if he's active, I usually take that as like, okay, the team has evaluated him. He says he feels good. The team is obviously going to okay that. So, and then of course, like I said, you always have the potential that once they actually get out there in real game speed, that he comes out of the game. But if the player says he's good and the team thinks he's good enough to activate him, I just play those guys. It's just how I usually do it. It's not maybe not the right strategy, but it's the one I like.
Since New England's come up, those corners aren't as good as they thought they were, eh? Like Stephon Gilmore might have been helping out more than people realized.
Well, a lot.
Like it sounds obvious when you say it because he was the defensive MVP a couple years ago. So like, oh yeah, Stephon Gilmore's good, nice call. But like, these other guys looked good enough that they were okay moving him. And I know age is probably a factor, and also where they view the team right now is a factor. But like, I think Stephon Gilmore's still really good with the way these other guys are looking without him. It's kind of lost.
Davis Mills was out there slinging it against him.
Dude, start your receivers against New England till they figure that out.
That was wild.
Well, they had a couple guys. What was it? J.C. Jackson, and there was their third guy even that they were like pretty big on, and I think that's part of the Gilmore move. But
yeah,
it's been bad.
It'll be interesting because I think just that game, even if Trayvon Diggs is not playing, like the Patriots aren't a team that lights up the scoreboard. I just don't know that they're that's not what they want to do, but I also don't even know if they wanted to. Just the way that team is set up. So the reason I bring it up is because you were talking about Dallas's wide receivers. Dallas has shown that if they don't have to move the ball downfield in a hurry by just slinging it like they did in week 1 when they had to, that they're totally content with having a very balanced, but maybe even lean more towards the run side and just use a lot of Zeke and throw some Pollard in there. And that's just how they do it. So you're not scared off at the matchup at all when you have, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and you're going to start them. But it's just not an automatic that those guys are going to light up the scoreboard today either, because they just might not have to worry about playing that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be some game flow. I think that New England might be slow down their run game enough to where it's going to, I think it'll be a little bit mixed against them. But
obviously depends on Dallas's success running the ball. But
Mike Williams has got some upside for you. I think I go Mike Williams on that decision too.
I mean, I would too, yeah, just because he could go 102 touchdowns. Week winning type shit.
We've got McLaurin and Gibson are both on the injury report, but that kind of seems normal at this point. The hamstring is something I don't like, but if guys are playing through it, you can't. I don't know. I've been kind of just like downgrading them a little bit and then moving on with my life. Like, it's hard. I think everyone can be a little bit different, but I think it's been easier for me to look at a guy and be like, okay, well, Terry McLaurin's your wide receiver 1. He's probably more like a wide receiver 2 this week, and I'm probably still starting him. And like if I'm loaded, or if I just have great matchups, like I might be going the other way. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, for my mind, a lot of these guys are wide receiver 1s or top at their position, which makes it a little easier. But you might be looking at somebody that's in the, like Chase Edmonds has had an injury designation and he's playing, and you probably didn't feel great about him coming into the year, and you're going to have a lot tougher decisions with guys in your lineup with him. Well played, Dallas. Well played. Dawson Knox is now tight end 3. We actually talked about that a little bit before we got started. Hockenson's been playing through the injury, and he's had he hasn't been great while he's been managing this. And so I think we both agreed that we're going to fade Hockenson a little bit right now until he is either off the injury report or looks like it's just clearly not holding him back at all. I think that's where we're at with that. I still like the player a lot better, but there's just there's a lot of attention and attention, and it's a big obstacle for him. It appears right now.
It's so frustrating. It's frustrating because even after Hockenson has had his bad weeks and he's been dealing with this injury and Knox has been crushing it, it just like it's gonna swing back around the other way, you know. And at what week is that? Like, Cincinnati Bengals haven't been a defense that you face that is like in the past where you're just like it's automatic. But it's not like they're a great defense at the same time. It's not a matchup I'm scared of, and that's who Hockenson gets to face this week. The Bills, I mean, they play the Titans, who might be one of the very worst defenses in the league. But and so obviously you can feel good about playing Knox, especially with what he's been doing. And that is where I would have to choose Knox this week, but I don't like it. But I would play Knox over Hockenson, I guess, and Hockenson's a wait and see. But what I was gonna say was like the Bills might be able to do whatever the hell they want against the Titans, which could just mean like maybe this is a get right game for Diggs. Like maybe Diggs puts up 100 and gets a touchdown today, and then Sanders still does his thing. Maybe Zach Moss sneaks 1 or 2 in, and then Knox just doesn't get his touchdown this week. That can happen.
Well, there's a couple things going on there for me. I think ultimately the big factor is what are A.J. Brown and Julio Jones going to bring to the table for Tennessee? Because if that game ends up being a shootout, which we haven't seen from Tennessee yet, and I don't expect it this week, but like coming into the year, you're looking at Julio, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry, and you're like, wow, Tennessee's planning on scoring with everybody. And I think that potential's still there. I think it's going to happen at some point. Buffalo's defense is also really good, and this is the first week back for Brown and Julio. But if those guys are good and not great, does Tennessee go back and forth with Buffalo for a little bit? Maybe Buffalo's more inclined to air it out. And the other part for me is like Diggs has been a bit of a disappointment. I don't think you should have like expected him to like do what he did last year, but I think you expected more when you picked him up. But I also think that these guys like Knox and Sanders are performing well because Diggs is demanding so much more attention. Like I think during the season last year you would have said like, okay, Diggs is getting double coverage, and I get that, but like there's something there, and I don't know if maybe it's a little bit of a couple things, but like Diggs isn't doing what he did last year, and that's offering more opportunities for Sanders and Knox, and maybe they just feel better about those guys this year. But even Cole Beasley's taken a little bit of a step back, while Sanders and Knox are thriving, and I don't think that that's going to be like the rest of the year kind of thing. I like that you said like Diggs could go for 100 because he could. It's just more like they're kind of spreading the love a little bit more, I think, than they were before.
Yeah, I think like Josh Allen took a step up last year from the previous, was it 2 or 3 years before that? 2 years. It was his third year when they got Diggs, and he really leveled up last year. I think it's kind of an extension of that again this year, where Sanders seems like he's probably the best secondary weapon they've had, from last year and this year. He's like he's a number 2 that can actually get it done week in, week out. And then you do have Knox that is out. Like Knox isn't just falling into targets right into the end zone. Like he's actually making some of these plays happen on his own. And I just think Josh Allen is more willing now to spread the ball out and not focusing on one. Like Diggs, there was games Diggs got just ungodly amount of targets. Like it was like a Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams situation. I just don't think we have that anymore. If these guys are out there and healthy, Allen is looking for anyone that's getting open. And yeah, you might be right. Like it might be the way those plays are designed, and that the defenses are putting enough focus on Diggs, and Buffalo knows that, and so they're scheming guys open. Like that could be the case. But if it is the case, it's still the same situation. Then like Diggs isn't going to be I don't know, this 12 target guaranteed lock every week as a wide receiver 1. It's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know. Diggs is a guy I've been thinking about trying to trade for. But it makes me nervous at the same time that what we've seen so far just could end up being the case for the entire year.
Sure, for sure. The running backs have been a little more involved than they were last year too. It's just an interesting thing, but Dawson Knox, ride that hot hand. I mean, even if he ends up finishing as like tight end 8 or 10, and it ends up being a thing we were not talking about in a few weeks, like there is a lot of value in catching that hot streak for some of these guys. So I'm in on Dawson Knox right now. Hockenson, I think, is a little banged up. I think he's got a little more attention than he's used to managing. They've actually forced the ball to him a few times, and he's having some trouble dealing with all of that. So,
Yeah.
Dawson Knox
Can't play a guy that's been that disappointing in Hockenson.
No.
It's just too tough.
Maybe package him and try to get Diggs back. I don't know.
Oh.
But, yeah, okay. So that's cool because that was something we were kind of talking about before we got started. I'm kind of glad that came up. What else we got? We got the Cleveland's backfield. So Nick Chubb's out. Kareem Hunt had an injury designation, but he's playing, and they don't seem to be too worried about it. They're talking about him getting a hefty little workload, right?
Yeah, they are. Stefanski came out, and he basically said that he says, I don't want to kill Kareem Hunt, but that he's got a number of touches in mind for him. Like they plan to. The way I'm taking that is, you remember Dearness Johnson from last year? He was the third running back on that roster, and there was a period of time where Chubb was out and Kareem Hunt also got hurt during that, and then this dude kind of stepped in. Well, I bring him up, and then they also got that Felton, who plays wide receiver and running back for that team. But I bring those guys up to say that I don't think Kareem Hunt gets 100% of the backfield work, especially when Stefanski comes out and says, I don't want to kill Kareem, and I got a number of touches in mind. Like, in my mind, that's just painting a picture where he's saying, like, yeah, Kareem's probably getting more work than he normally does, but we're not going to just give this dude 30 touches. He's not getting the Derrick Henry treatment, which I'm totally, as a guy that has Kareem Hunt, I'm happy to hear that, especially when he also did have a wrist and knee injury he was dealing with this week. But man, like, Kareem's been great this year so far. Don't expect that to change this week, obviously, with him being the main dude now. I got Chubb in the league too. This was like a double-edged sword for me this week.
Well, Kareem's been
Chubb,
a top 10 running back with the timeshare, so like he's been as good as you could ask for.
Yeah.
And he fell for whatever reason. He was lower this year.
Khalil Herbert or Alex Collins. Yeah, that's a good one because the problem with Alex Collins, obviously, like if Russell Wilson was there and not Geno, this would probably be a fairly easy one for me, and I would say Alex Collins. Just because I'm obviously you have concern about Chicago's offense and their ability to sustain drives, and the fact that Green Bay's Green Bay's defense is not all that particularly special, but their front's pretty good. But Herbert's probably going to get like 20 touches in this game. And as long as the game can stay kind of close, if Green Bay just comes out and lights up the scoreboard and they gotta get away from the run game, then you're gonna be stuck having 40 yards with Herbert, and it's gonna be tough.
Well, I think the way I processed it was you look at Seattle, and what I expect Alex Collins to have around 15 carries and around 60 yards, and then the touchdown is like, does it happen or doesn't it? Is kind of how I look at Alex Collins. And if you look at Herbert, like that dude had, 18 carries while sharing time with Montgomery last week. So I think that the volume's going to be there. The concern is that Williams got, or I said Montgomery. The concern is that Williams got both catches out of the backfield. So I do think game script is a good thing to bring up because Chicago Green Bay should be physical, and I think there's going to be I think there's going to be some opportunity to run the ball, but I'm kind of looking at it like how many like receiving options does he have if or like targets does he get if Green Bay does get an early lead. So that's the real question there for me. But I think Herbert, I think they're more than happy with him running the ball, and I feel a little better about Herbert, honestly.
I think I do too, just because you have no, like I said, you have no Russell Wilson. I'm concerned about Geno, and they're playing Pittsburgh. It's not like that's an easy matchup. I would go Khalil Herbert too. Hope that he gets a goal line carry and can stuff one in.
Yeah, and Green Bay's defense isn't like a scary thing. I guess neither's Pittsburgh.
No.
They've both been kind of disappointing, but
a little bit. I think Pittsburgh's defense has been disappointing because of the offense. I think like the offensive inability to stay on the field and sustain drives, but Pittsburgh gets to go against Seattle's defense as well. Like Big Ben gets to go against Seattle's defense, and they've been pretty terrible. I would think that Pittsburgh could be able to can hold the ball on offense a little bit longer.
Yeah, I could see that. I think it's a good opportunity maybe to see if Chicago does view Herbert as any sort of an option in the passing game. It'll be a good opportunity to just know.
I mean, I'm a Bears fan, and I don't know who they are going to use after Herbert. I'm not sure who it's going to be. I knew there are 3 running backs that I've seen play, and after Herbert, I haven't seen whoever that next guy is. I have not seen him play, so I don't know.
They have Ryan Nall listed as their backup running back, and he's also questionable.
Well, there you go. So I mean, if Khalil Herbert, if this game stays competitive throughout, that guy's getting over 20 touches.
Yeah, this dude is 6'2", 240, so I don't think he's profiles as a receiver. Well,
okay. There you go.
We also have Artavis Pierce out there. He's a little smaller. He's 5'11", 208 from Oregon State too, which uses dual threat running back. So that he might be the guy that gets a few catches if that's a thing. But yeah, Khalil Herbert, pretty solid option.
Yeah.
All right. T.Y. Hilton is back. I mean, he was fantasy relevant last year too, and I think people have been down on him his whole career. I think he's been a little underrated. He's been traditionally, he's been a yards guy and not a touchdown guy. So like every year he goes out there and he puts up yards and he puts up fantasy points, and people are like, I don't know. So
yeah,
he comes back, gives them another option. I mean, I think that takes Zach Pascal all the way off the radar because he was kind of touchdown dependent early, but he was doing it, and now he's kind of faded the last couple weeks. But Hilton, another interesting option for that team to go, to I guess complement maybe at this point what Pittman and Taylor have been bringing to the passing game.
Yeah, I think that I think and I hope that Pittman has done enough at this point this year to sort of like he is the new number 1. I think and I hope that that's the case. But I think T.Y. back, if T.Y. is right, if he's healthy, regardless of how good he may be as a player now compared to what he used to be, obviously I'm sure he's still not prime T.Y. Hilton. But I mean, look, at the end of last year, T.Y. Hilton had a really disappointing year last year. At the end of last year, he had a nice group of games before the season was over. So if he can play like that, then this is more of just an upgrade for that entire offense for Carson Wentz, which in turn, yeah, like you said, helps Jonathan Taylor. It can help Pittman as well. I don't look at T.Y. Hilton as a bad thing for guys like Pittman. I look at it as a positive thing. I think it's a good thing when you have multiple weapons out there that are capable. So I don't know how excited that is. I know people in our leagues are stashing Ty. That's fine. Like, I just am not particularly like overly excited about it. I think, like I said, I think it's just more of a good thing from a real football sense for the Colts.
I think he's just got a broad range of outcomes. And T.Y. Hilton running out of the slot, which they moved him around a little bit, but I think with Pittman helps Hilton a lot
Dude,
too. Where Hilton should be just in the slot. I would like to
I
think.
didn't think about that, but yeah, if they play Ty in the slot for the majority, because Pittman's had to do a lot of that short underneath stuff. It seems like often because Carson Wentz needs a guy he can get the ball to quickly. But if they can give Pittman some more downfield looks, that would be nice. Did you see that one downfield throw that he had? He doesn't get many of them right now. He gets some, but in the last 2 weeks, the last 2 games, he's had 2 deep ball jump balls that he's came down with. One in single coverage, he went over the top and grabbed it over a guy on his helmet. And then the week before that, it was in double coverage, running to the edge of the sideline, had 2 guys on him, and he went up and high pointed it too.
Yeah, he's been pretty good.
He's a big dude, so
he
it'd be nice
seems
to
a
see him
lot
get
more
those.
confident. Like I think that's
Yeah,
the biggest thing for Pittman is he seems more confident and he has been doing better. The Colts lost a heartbreaker last week. I think they actually should have won that game, and then some play calling I think played into it. It looked like they went to prevent a little earlier than they probably should have. They were trying to protect their corners. They have a lot of injuries at corner, but I think that division Tennessee's the clear front runner right now, but that they're in a weak division and they got Houston who hasn't been great, and Houston is in their division, which might add a little more motivation for Indy too. I think this is a really good first game opportunity for Hilton to see what's going on, where I think that the team should be fired up a little bit because it is in their division, and they took that bad loss. If their
they
hearts are
should.
still in it and they haven't given up yet, like I think this is going to be a big one, a big opportunity.
They better win this game. If the Colts can't win this game, then oof, they got some real problems.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Houston has played tough. They've played better than people were than anybody would have expected them to play. Even with Mills, like they were out there giving the Patriots a game last week. Nobody would have seen that coming. So I don't think it's just a complete pushover because it just seems like they're like their hearts are still in it. Which credit to the coaching staff on that one that you got those guys still buying in. But the Colts should be able to win that game, dude.
Yeah.
If they can't win that game, it's bad.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on Hilton. We'll see what he ends up what he ends up doing. I think it's a good opportunity to gauge where he's at right now, and he might be rusty. He might actually, they might be using him selectively at times because he's been out for a while. But good opportunity to see what he's bringing to the table. What else we got? We got a couple guys that they're saying are 100%, or they're at least off either the coaching staff is saying they plan on using these guys in full, or they're off the injury report. But Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon, I mean, those guys now like are not being tied to any injuries. So that's good news for both of those guys.
Yeah, Cook is completely off the injury report. So as far as we know, he's back to what he is, full workhorse. Obviously, you're playing him. Mixon is on the injury report, but they've already come out and said that he's expected, not only is he expected to play, but he's expected to get a full workload. Remember Samaje Perine is not even in this game because he's out for COVID reasons. So would expect Joe Mixon to get a nice full workload, playing him for sure. Yeah, that covers those guys. Damien Harris is another one, another guy that another running back that people probably looking to play in a flex, I would think. And he's supposed to be activated for this game. I think that's still a little bit of a wait and see. He was the most questionable of that group of running backs coming into this week. I don't even know if he practiced all week. I don't think he did. But we had an update today saying that they expect him to go.
And that's good because, like, with his running style too, and it was a rib injury. Like, that's something I think they would lean more towards caution on. So, if they're saying he's good, he's probably pretty good. What else we got? We were talking about Barkley a little bit. He has what, an ankle injury? Can you hear me? Oh no.
Damn it. Can't hear. Can't hear Dub.
I think we're still good on. I think we're still good on stream. So I'm gonna.
I don't know
I'm
what's
just gonna
going
take
on, but I
off
can't
on.
hear Dub.
I'm gonna take off on Saquon
Is the stream
Barkley
still up?
here. I think Saquon
The stream is still up.
Barkley had an ankle injury. He's not expected to play. Devontae Booker was one
I
of the
think.
bigger pickups. Um, Devontae Booker was one of the more intriguing pickups, but we don't know how long
Why do you
Saquon's
do this
gonna
to the
be
center and a
out.
half? Why do you do
And he is expected to be. Sorry, Saquon Barkley. We don't have a time frame on, but we are kind of waiting. Okay, sorry. we've got some minor technical difficulties. I'm gonna just keep pushing through. Saquon Barkley, we don't have a time frame on, but he's hurt. Um, Devontae Booker has been Devontae Booker has been one of the bigger pickups, but they have the Rams this week, and the Rams are a very ugly matchup. So we're not really thrilled about the matchup. We don't know how long Barkley's going to be out, so it's kind of a mess on both ends. But I don't know. I mean, it's like if you needed him, if you were a Barkley owner, or you're really thin at running back, like I'm still considering running Booker out there, but I think it's one of the more interesting decisions to make because like you don't know what you're going to get out of Booker. You're probably in a position where you've already invested what you needed to get him, but like what is your likelihood of starting him? It's a bad matchup, so I think you'd have to be desperate. He's going to get the volume, but we'll just have to wait and see and um I don't know, kind of go from there, I guess. Like I think we're back now, Josh. What do you I was just talking about Devontae Booker and how like you probably had to invest a lot to get him, but I think you also have to be pretty desperate to run him out there this week against the Rams. Oh, I guess we're not good. What do we have going on here? I think this is a Discord issue. I'm gonna try to reset Discord here and get Josh back in here. But I think the stream's still good. I think we're just working through one of our common, unfortunately, Discord dilemmas here.
Are we back? I can
I
hear you chatting on stream. I just can't hear you in Discord.
Yeah, I pushed through a little bit on the Giants running back situation. Stream's fine. It's a Discord issue. I don't see your webcam on here either. I just closed and reopened Discord. Can you try to maybe reset Discord? All right. Well, we've got plenty to talk about here. Let's see. I'm gonna keep working on this Discord thing, but we still have some stuff we can talk about. Um, we've got we've got Jacksonville Miami that's been going so far today. That game, we'll just use that for a little bit of a time killer. That game's been back and forth a little bit here. I'm just gonna pull that back up. We got Jacksonville ended up coming back and taking a lead here. They're up 17-13. James Robinson got himself a touchdown since the last time I checked. That's good. That's good. Um, we don't want flower ads. Sorry. Josh? Oh. Oh no. So for any of you guys that are watching that get into sportsbook betting, I took a same game parlay out here, and I got a few Jacksonville players involved. I took James Robinson for some rushing yards. I took Chenault for some receiving yards and Lawrence for some rushing yards, and we're a half yard short of Lawrence's rushing yards. I'm a little concerned about that, but we still got some time.
Hey,
Yo,
I'm not sure what's going on with Discord, but it's Discord's the problem right now.
for sure it is.
Well, I mean, we're back for now, but Discord's having some issues. It was saying no route for me. Like essentially, it just couldn't connect.
All right. Well, sorry about that, everybody. While that was happening, I'd kind of pushed through a little bit of the Giants running
I
back
heard,
situation. I just basically said like we don't know how long Barkley's going to be out, but you probably had to spend to get Booker, and we have an ugly matchup this week. Like? Do you have to be pretty desperate to run Booker out there, even though you probably bought in pretty heavy to get him?
yeah, I don't. The Rams haven't been a super dominant defense like we were kind of expecting them to, but obviously they have the players on that roster on that defense, like a team that I think can manage a run game from the Giants and potentially just shut them down. I don't want to play him. It would have to be desperation, and you're only going to play him because of volume.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's a bummer because you did have to spend to get him. I think there's some value there if Barkley's out and for an extended period of time and you've got their running back, but you're hoping for some better matchups if you're going to run him out there.
I'm back. I don't know what's going on with Discord there, Dallas, but got to make a phone call, I suppose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I mean, I heard you mention the internet upgrade. I did upgrade the internet, hoping to help with the stream and just stuff around the house. Sundays had been an issue. I'm still not getting the full gig. I checked it and I reset everything today, so I'll have to give them a call.
Really?
But we were pulling like 600 or 650 down and like 40, almost 40 up. So should still be
Hmm.
healthy as far as internet goes. I think
Yeah,
that was
I
a
just assumed
Discord thing.
it was. I just assumed it was, probably you having an issue with your internet because that's what we've had so far. But yeah, I think it actually was a Discord problem.
Well,
That's sort of out of our control.
yeah, those happen from time to time. Gotta love Discord. I mean, what else? I was kind of like looking through the schedule here and just kind of going down the list. Like we've touched on a few of these games. Um, I don't know. I think we covered the injury list we had, right? We
Yeah.
had
Well, with Edge, while you're looking, I'll just say with the Giants and Rams, Daniel Jones is cleared from his concussion protocol, so he's playing. So like, I don't know about you, but I want to know. I want to see these receivers again. It sounds like Galladay's probably not going to be active. Sterling Shepard is in. Darius Slayton is a game time decision, and Kadarius Toney is in. So we know the only ones we know for sure is it's Shepard and it's Toney, which is already interesting with those two because Shepard is primarily a slot player, almost exclusively slot player, and Toney is a smaller wide receiver. I think they were using him in the slot some, but when Galladay got hurt in that game this past week, they put him on the outside and he made a couple big plays on the outside too. I'm assuming that's where he's going to be today. And those are some tough, you got Ramsey out there. It's a tough secondary to go against too. So I
for
just
sure.
want to see. I'm just saying, if Tony goes out there and fuck balls out again, we might have a guy in our hands.
Yeah, yeah. I think when we were talking about it last stream, I was kind of hoping that Galladay was gonna dress, even if it was a decoy thing, because like I wanted him the chance that Galladay might have drawn some attention on defense. So Daniel Jones being out there was probably the biggest factor. But getting greedy, like
Yeah.
I was hoping that Galladay'd be out there for a little bit of attention too. So that's a little bit of a bummer. But Ramsey's been moving around a lot, and they do seem to want to try to put him in positions like to cut off some offensive tendencies too. So I think there have been some times where I've seen Ramsey covering some guys that you wouldn't think about or expect going in too, and I think they're more playing to tendencies. So I mean, there's a chance there that he's trying to undercut Shepard if that's something they've noticed on film or something like that. I think it's it's scary going in. But like with the way that I've seen them using him and moving him around, like I don't think Tony's going to be looking at Ramsey all game either way.
He may not. The Rams and Ramsey, he'll probably adjust based on what's working for the Giants, if anything's working.
Right.
If Shepard starts to eat a little bit, they might put him over there. If Tony is, they might put him on Tony.
Yeah, like Ramsey's been playing this year. From what I've seen, I've caught, I don't know, maybe 2.5 of their games so far. They've been using him almost like he's playing like a hybrid safety. I mean, he's still doing the coverage out there. He's still a really good cover guy, but like he has been loving getting his head in there and like hitting running backs here and there, like those little swing passes. Like,
well, he's a bigger corner.
Yeah, and it seems like he's loving it. But yeah, that's definitely worth bringing up. There's a lot going on there. Jones healthy is a very good start for that. That'll be interesting. And
yeah, that would be
I mean, if
that
Tony
was the number one.
If Tony looks good, Slayton's kind of out of the picture for me, I think. I mean, like if Tony has another big game, Slayton's donezo, right?
I think it just puts you in a spot where when they're all healthy, Slayton just becomes unusable, and then more than likely another guy does too for that team. And I don't know who it's going to be, if it would be a Galladay, if it would be Shepard. But yeah, to your point, like if Tony goes out and has himself another really productive game, I mean, maybe too soon, but that'd be 3 weeks in a row, and this particular week's a tough matchup. I automatically elevate him to the number one wide receiver on that team, moving forward, no matter who's active.
Well, and I think his style is gonna offer you as much as you can get out of the Giants offense too, because like one thing we have to just accept about Daniel Jones is he does not throw a lot of touchdowns, and that's like a big cap for a guy like Galladay. But if you have a guy like Tony that's out there running routes and finding space, like then you're having a better chance of getting what Daniel Jones does have to offer, which is like yards. Like if the opportunity's there and he's open, I think that's going to be a way more reliable option than like banking on Galladay catching touchdowns from a guy that doesn't throw too many. So very interesting rest of the season outlook. If Tony has another big game, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
We had a Ravens situation that I had wrote down here. It's kind of a twofer here. Rashad Bateman's making his NFL debut this week. I loved watching him play for Minnesota. I think he was a really good player that stood out most games and just kind of looked like he was in another level when he was on the field in college. He's going to make his debut, and we've talked about how like Ravens receivers haven't really been traditionally intriguing, but Watkins is out this week too. So Bateman's in and Watkins is out, and so the Chargers' pass defense has been incredibly good against receivers this year. You have to take it with a grain of salt. This is also Bateman's first game, but it gives us an opportunity to see what Bateman's role might look like. It gives us an opportunity to see how Baltimore might want to use him, or where they might be looking for him on the field, if they're going to be trying to create space for him, or if he's just this I guess afterthought extra option, which is probably more what I would have been expecting. But Watkins has also been a higher floor option that I think looking from the outside in, I would have been looking at like Watkins on paper so far this year, like, hey, that's starting to be worth paying attention to, and now Bateman comes in and potentially, has an opportunity to take that role.
It's interesting because he's a rookie that we liked the way he looked. We liked his film in college, and he had a ton of hype behind him this year. Him and Elijah Moore for the Jets. Those are the two that stick out to me as like preseason rookies that a lot of people were really, really pushing, really hyping. The fact too, though, is that Baltimore, they're struggling to run the ball. Lamar himself isn't, but the running backs there, like they're just not really getting the production from that position that they're used to getting. And it's led to them throwing more. And they've actually, like Lamar, for the most part, I give him credit. He's been able to hit a lot of his throws. And it's kept, I mean, Hollywood Brown has had, it's like a breath of fresh air for him. He's had a nice year this year. Mark Andrews just had an unbelievable game this past week. He's been good. And yeah, to your point, Sami Watkins has had 7-8 targets up until this last week. Sami Watkins has had 7-8 targets every single week. and it isn't like he's been some primary focus for the team, but he's been getting it done for them in a real world, real football sense. So now he's out. Bateman gets his opportunity, and with the way this team is moving the ball through the air, it does make me more interested than I would have been coming into the season about him. Just seeing with the way that offense is moving the ball, the way they're throwing, makes me more excited for it. So, unfortunately, in our leagues, he's picked up. I would have liked to have picked him up and just asked him just to see, just to hold and wait for it. But this first week, you got to understand that it's his first week coming back from this injury, and he's a rookie. So of course we're not. I mean, we're not going to expect this guy to go out there and get 100 yards, right? Like he might only play a little bit today. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's going to be more like what you see on the field and where they're using him. I mean, if he comes in this week and he has 3 targets, but they're like on 3rd down or 2nd and long, like that might tell me that they have more confidence in him than we know at this point. Like there's just some situational stuff that even if it's limited, which it probably will be, that you could maybe take away and be like, oh, okay, well, like this is starting to look like a thing.
Right. Do I start Daryl Williams or Khalil Herbert? Is that full PPR or standard? I will say with Daryl Williams, I obviously you like that offense more with the Chiefs offense as opposed to the Bears, and I also like that matchup a lot being against Washington. Washington's got those guys up front. You know the names, and obviously that's a stout front, but they haven't shown it on the field. They have not performed well. I just think Daryl Williams has a great shot at a touchdown this week. Khalil Herbert, you're going volume there because Khalil Herbert should have 20 plus touches as long as that game's competitive. I think that Jerick McKinnon is going to play probably a little bit more than we expect this week with the Chiefs. I don't think Daryl Williams is just a workhorse. Anytime that Daryl Williams has got the start because of a guy in front of him that's been hurt, he's never got some sort of full workload ever. I still think I'm going to play Daryl Williams, though.
I think Daryl Williams has made quite a bit out of the opportunities he's had recently, and that's intriguing to me with the offense being open, right? Like they spread the field, and there's a lot of stuff going on with Kansas City. We're also looking at Tyreek with the quad injury. I mean, like we talked a little bit about how I'm wondering if he's going to be a decoy, and if he is, I think that's better for Daryl Williams too.
The Chiefs just don't. What you can say about those two teams is the Chiefs just don't, like if they don't run the ball, they're cool with it. They don't really. They can still function without that, and it's cool for them. They don't care. The Bears need to be able to run the ball. Like they will put emphasis on that.
And they're not going to steer away from giving Herbert volume. I think they proved that last week.
No, they won't. It's just the Bears are such a tough team for fantasy. Like you can't, with the way that team's trying to figure out what their identity is really with Justin Fields and then letting him actually just get some more real game action. In turn, for fantasy reasons, like we all know how disappointing Allen Robinson has been. It's to the point where you probably can't play that guy, right? Until he does something. I mean, it's been that bad for him. Mooney's had that one blow-up game with Fields a couple weeks back, but then he turned right back around and was really it's just it's one of those teams that's a bit of a dumpster fire for fantasy right now. Just everything over there, and because I don't even know what to expect from the Bears this week. Part of the reason why you want to try to project who you start in games on these teams is you try to think a little bit about how the game script might go. It can't be everything, but you try to think about it a little bit. I can't tell you if the Bears are going to get waxed today or if they're going to keep it competitive. I've got no idea.
The Green Bay does come into this game in Chicago, Chicago's defense is pretty solid still, and Green Bay doesn't have Jair Alexander, and I don't think that is me. That's not me saying fall in love with Allen Robinson this week, but I think it provides some opportunity in a football sense for the Bears to extend some drives and have some sustained drives in time of possession, which will help Khalil Herbert. The problem is like you said, it's really unpredictable how the like a lot of it for Herbert for me is going to be game flow. Like we mentioned earlier, like that Herbert had a lot of run attempts last week with Williams in the picture, but he didn't have any of those receptions. So it's like if game flow goes away that it could, then like we don't know what Herbert's going to do or how involved he's going to be.
Right. Or
I don't
even
know.
just the fact that Justin Fields is always looking downfield. He's always looking to make a throw downfield. He's not up to this short amount of time that he's played in the pros. He has not been a check down guy. He's not really looking for that running back dump off. He's like, I think that guy's open 30 yards downfield. Probably going to go ahead and throw it to him.
I probably lean Williams, but I think it's really close, and I think with the rivalry factor, if you were to weigh that in, that Bears and Green Bay game, I think I expect to be close at least for a while. So I
Mm-hmm.
do think Herbert's got some opportunity. I just think it's tough. I think it's tough, but I think I go Williams.
I do too. It's super hard for me to want to play someone from the Bears at this moment. Play Daryl Williams. You hope he gets you a total between catching a couple passes and running the ball. You hope that he gets you 65, 70 yards and gets in the end zone.
Yeah, which would be a good fantasy day.
Right.
We've got some moving pieces and some potentially moving pieces that we wanted to touch on too. Um, Robbie, I don't think you can hold T.Y. Hilton's expectations to like his peak. I don't think we're looking at a T.Y. Hilton that was doing like 13 to 1500 receiving yards and like what 3 to 5 touchdowns. But I do
Yeah.
think that he's going to be a guy that gets you a lot of consistency if he's playing in. We're looking for him to play in the slot, and if he's getting a lot of slot reps, I think that's really interesting to me. I think he's going to be a guy that you're looking at 50 to 70 yards almost every game, and when he gets a touchdown, you're really excited about it. But I think there's a lot of value there in fantasy for that. Um, and then also we'll have to process what Hilton's production does for the rest of the offense. Does it turn into a focus thing? Does it open up opportunities for Pittman where they're like playing one against the other, as far as the defense goes? So I think we have a bit to see on that. I mean, Pittman's been there, but he hasn't been as good as he has this year, and they have Wentz, which is new too. So, I mean, if Hilton is respectable this year, I think that they've got probably the best set of options they've had in Indy in a while. It's just going to
Yeah.
be like, where do they choose? How do they choose to use it?
Yeah, and I trust Wentz enough if he can stay healthy. I trust Wentz enough to be able to get the ball to Ty if he's open.
I,
But no, I don't think. I think those days of T.Y. Hilton with all those yards, I think that's probably behind him. Could still be usable though. If you got like so, for instance, there you said you've got Jefferson, Sutton, Sanders. Obviously, you're starting Jefferson. That goes without saying. But if I'm in a league where it's 2 wide receivers and a flex, and I have those 4 wide receivers, I'm gonna play Sutton and Sanders as my wide receiver 2 and flex over T.Y. Hilton this week for sure. And then we can adjust after we see Ty play today. We can see how he looks, and then go from there on it. But for right now,
exactly.
I wouldn't expect him to. I wouldn't expect him to just jump immediately into like relevance right away.
Well, the Sutton thing is interesting because the news on ESPN has been that Cortland Sutton needs to be faded hard because Casey Hayward's playing really well for the Raiders, and I understand matchups, and I do like looking at specific corners that I expect to be matched up with my receivers.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Cortland Sutton is a guy that you're fading too much no matter who's covering him because when he does have a game, he's getting like 10 to 12 targets. Like he's had that twice this year. And I just don't think that volume um, makes him a hard fade when you're considering starting a guy that's getting that many targets. I'm far less concerned with who's going to be on the other side of the across from him. If you're getting
Yeah.
10 to 12 targets, guys are going to find production no matter who's out there. I
Well,
think
and
it's just
and
more about where they choose to throw the ball this week.
that's really what it comes down to is will Bridgewater give him the opportunity still? And I'm just going to lean on the side that he will. And then because I think if he does, like Sutton is a similar guy to how Galladay was, like when he was playing with the Lions. You're not always going to get a ton of separation, but they're big wide receivers with good body control who are really good at contested catches. So just what you need to do with those guys is just be willing to give them the opportunity, and they can come down with those. So as long as because of that, like Sutton's a guy I agree with you. You always want to look at cornerback matchups, but in most cases, he's one of the players that I don't care about that as much with. It's more of a question of like, will Bridgewater give Sutton those opportunities? Sutton just came off a nice game. He's had a couple of nice games with Bridgewater. I'm going to play him.
Same. I mean, you look at it too. Unfortunately for Denver, without Judy and Hamler, like you have Sutton, you have Patrick, and you have Fant. So like,
Right.
it's not they can't. They also can't really afford to throw away from Sutton. So, I mean,
No.
it is what it is. It's a point worth bringing up, but I think they hit it a little too hard. Oh,
I
but
just
we
got a
were.
notification on my phone.
What was that?
Jaylen Waddle scored another touchdown. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's two.
That's two of them. Yep. I assume he must be wide receiver 1 now with Tua back. That must be the case.
Yeah. Well, you got Parker out, but Fuller's playing, right?
Nah. I think Fuller retired.
Fuller.
I think he retired a couple years ago.
Yeah. Retired
No,
like John Gruden resigned.
yeah.
Like, hey.
No, I don't. I don't think Will Fuller was active for this game. Yeah, he's on injured reserve. He had that finger issue.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, I
it was
mean
that bad
they
for
got
him.
nobody there. It's Waddle and like Preston and Williams or whatever. Not a good wide receiver core, but I'm just throwing that out there.
No, and they were one of the deeper groups coming in too, so that's kind of crazy. Looks like Gesicki's having a pretty good game too. I need a
Jags are
couple
up in that
more.
game.
I need a couple more catches from Chenault. I need another carry from Trevor Lawrence for a few yards.
Man, your player prop bets?
Yeah, I think Robinson hit the yards I needed, but I need like literally one more rushing yard from Trevor Lawrence, and I need like 20, 25 more yards from Chenault. I think I needed 50 from him.
Chenault's got 3 catches. Okay, come on, just give me one more catch there, Chenault. Let me cash on that player prop.
Yeah, let's go, let's go. But we were starting to get into. Well, the next stop was the Ertz trade, right? So like, Ertz got traded right after the Philly game on Thursday, and now he goes to Arizona, and that is good news for both. For well, what was coming into this week, both Eagles tight ends, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think one player in Goddard you like because I just think he's a better player at this point than Zach Ertz is, and he was, in my opinion, he was very clearly being held back in his production because of Ertz being there still and being involved as well. Jalen Hurts seems to love throwing to the tight ends, and he would focus on both of those guys, almost at all times. Like it was them and Devonta Smith, and then these other ancillary pieces they had would just get a random deep target here and there, like a Rager or whoever, Watkins. But it's mostly the tight ends. So now Goddard has a clear path as the sole focus, the best tight end that they have by far at this point. Should be on the field almost at all times, and I expect to get a lot of targets. So I like it. Zach Ertz, Max Williams was starting to get some work over in Arizona. Then he gets hurt and he's out for the year. They trade for a tight end in Zach Ertz. So obviously they still want that to be a focus for their offense. They still want the tight end to be involved. And they went out and got a guy that they think can do it for him. And he probably can. Zach Ertz is probably good enough still to make it happen in Arizona. It's an offense that loves to score a lot of points. They throw all the time. So I don't think as much of him as I do Goddard as far as his capability, but I like the offense he's in more. So they're both relevant for fantasy now.
Yeah, I think they both get an upgrade. I think Ertz has been picking up a little bit of steam the last 2-3 weeks anyway, but my takeaway from the Ertz side of it is that like he's probably offensively an upgrade over Max Williams at this point. Um,
Yeah.
so I think Ertz does get a bump as far as just how you view Ertz, but my concern at that point then is like that has to come from somewhere, and that's probably going to be like the Kirk Rondell Moore situation. So
Yeah.
little bummed out about that. I think there's still going to be some opportunities for both of those guys, but I think there's just going to be fewer opportunities, and you're going to be investing a little more in those in the bigger plays for both of those guys. I think Hopkins and Green stay about the same, but that middle of the field is getting a little thick now.
Yeah, the consistency, right? That was the issue if you were trying to play an AJ Green, Christian Kirk, if you were stashing a Rondell Moore. The consistency has always been the issue with this team as far as who you can play for fantasy that week, and now you got Zach Ertz in the mix. It's not like Max Williams. I mean, before Max Williams got hurt, we weren't looking at him saying he's an automatic start every week at that point, but we were just taking note that the guy had put a couple of nice games together, and it seemed like there are weeks where he is involved. And yeah, so now you have Zach Ertz, who's capable tight end, and it just makes it very murky. Makes it very murky for all those guys, more so than it even was before, and that is unfortunate. But if you're talking about Zach Ertz himself, the tight end position is already inconsistent and ugly. So Zach Ertz probably has to be rostered, and I suppose you can play him and just know that you're going to have weeks that are going to be good and weeks where he's going to totally disappear. That's just what it always is with the Arizona offense at this point.
For
And
sure.
how do you feel about Rondell Moore? Because you were holding on to him and stash, like, is he now on that drop? Is he now a drop for you? Or are you still just you would prefer to hold?
I mean, I'm still stashing if I can afford it. I mean, obviously, if you're a team that's been hit with a couple injuries and your bench is just looking stuck, I think that you're considering dropping Rondell Moore. But I like him enough, and I think that he has enough big playability that I'm still trying to hold out for a couple weeks to see what it looks like. Unfortunately, because of the timing of the trade, we're not going to see Ertz this week. So, I mean, you're looking at a 3 week investment on Rondell Moore to see what he would do. And I understand that
Yeah.
you might not be in a position to allow that much time. I'm not asking you to be a guy where like everyone on your bench is like banged up or someone you don't feel great about starting and also stash Rondale Moore. But if you are afforded that opportunity, I mean, I still think there's enough upside there that he's probably more attractive than most of the guys you can get in free agency. But I am concerned. I do think I have to bump more down a little bit. So we'll
I
see.
think,
But I think Ertz is the big winner out of that situation.
yeah, I think Goddard's the biggest winner. But I think
No, yeah, for Arizona's offense.
for Arizona, yes. Yep, agreed. Uh, I I believe I read the past week after last week's games that last week was the first week Rondell Moore ran more routes. It was either more snaps or more routes than Christian Kirk, and that was the first time that had happened. So, like you said, there's no Zach Ertz this week, but let's see what the snap counts and the routes are on Kyler Murray dropbacks. Let's see what the routes are for those two guys between Rondell Moore and Christian Kirk, because maybe there's a shift happening
Yeah.
where Rondell Moore starts to be the one to get more involved out on the field more, and maybe Christian Kirk is going to take the back seat at this point. He's been really good at look. If we know anything about Christian Kirk in the Arizona offense, he has flashes where he's a guy and then completely goes away and disappears again. And I don't know what the rhyme or reason is for it, but it's been reliable enough over these years. We know it's a thing. So, and they like Rondell Moore. They went out and drafted him fairly high draft capital. And on top of all of that, when he gets the ball in open space, the guy looks unbelievable. So he should be somebody that gets on the field and plays.
Well,
I agree with you. You hold him, and let's see what those snap counts look like this week.
yeah, I think more offers more consistency on the shorter underneath stuff, that line of scrimmage stuff, the stuff that might be even considered a carry, right? Like there's just some ways that they've used more that I think he is more consistent and reliable, where I think Kirk is pretty good at finding space in the mid to deep part of the field and, taking advantage of open field in front of him, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think more offers more of the grinded out, smaller, you know, small spaces kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that Arizona likes that and notices that too, and we'll see. I mean, it's a good point to bring up with the routes run and I hope it continues. I think it's worth stashing to see. I don't know.
Right. I agree.
I think it's a slight bump down because of the Ertz news, but yeah, we'll have to see. If he takes over that Kirk role, that's still very interesting.
It is. It would provide a little bit of a more consistency at least. Like they just need to remove one of those guys, for
Yeah,
fantasy. Like one of them just needs to go away.
Kirk gets hurt once in a while too. I'm not saying I hope
Nah,
that happens, but
I'm not saying I hope it happens either, but we're still waiting for AJ Gray to fall. One of these days it's gonna happen.
Kirk has some experience outside too. That's another opportunity. That would just be a different way of moving the pieces.
Yeah, it might actually be worse for Rondell Moore. Christian Kirk might be able to get more done out there on the
True.
outside.
True. Couple other potential hold pieces. I mean, this isn't typically our like pick 'em up kind of things, but you got 40 minutes where you could still pick some guys up for free if you're in standard waivers. You got free agents sitting out there. Um, Marlon Mack was somebody we were interested in picking up because it was like 5 or 6 days ago. The Chiefs said that they had inquired about Marlon Mack's services. And if he went to the Chiefs, we had talked about how that would be very interesting. I think if it would have happened, if it was going to happen, it probably would have happened by now. But there's still a stash opportunity there. If you've got someone you just know you're giving up, getting rid of on your bench, it might be a, add and hold situation. The Colts are still trying to sprinkle Mac in to try to, I think, advertise him a little bit to the league. The other part of that is that there was speculation that the Chiefs were inquiring about a different running back too, and I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but there was a rumor that some teams had inquired about a different running back, and then it was
I
like,
think
oh
that
well, was it the
was
Chiefs?
I think that was one that wasn't confirmed. It was the Chiefs. It was one I mentioned to you last week where Adam Schefter had said that that teams, a team or teams were reaching out to Baltimore about their running backs.
Oh yeah, we
There
were
was
talking about
somebody in
like a
that.
Freeman or a
Yeah, was it Freeman? Was it Tyson? I just don't think it would be Le'Veon Bell or Latavius Murray. So I would think it'd be one of those two. And yeah, we just didn't know if maybe the Chiefs were that team because they did confirm that they had talked about Marlon Mack. The trade deadline is November 2nd. That's just a couple weeks from now.
yeah.
So we are in the time right now. We haven't had a lot of NFL trade talks that have been happening, but every year when especially in that last week, but usually like probably after this week, we're really going to start seeing a lot of the trade rumors. They're going to start flying around. A lot of different names are going to get thrown out there. It's going to get a lot of people excited that play fantasy football, and most of them won't come to fruition. That's just how it works. But we might
Exactly.
have one or two big splash trades that happen that could be huge. And yeah, Marlon Mack could be one of them.
Marlon Mack he's the stash because he's the player that I'd be most interested in if he had an opportunity. And there's a couple other teams that might not be
Same.
talked about now that might be more interested. Like we don't know how long Barkley's going to be out, but like if Booker goes out and has another subpar game this week, like Giants might be looking at, they might be more interested in Marlon Mack. So the point of bringing up that there were some teams interested in the Baltimore situation, and then we kind of assumed that it was Kansas City. But I think that's fair. I guess what I'm saying is like it might mean that Kansas City's not fully interested in Marlon Mack, or he might not be their top option that they're considering, but like that I'm also not as interested in like Freeman or Murray if they end up, somewhere else. Where I
Right.
think if Matt gets that opportunity, he could be really good. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like trades are less likely to happen. We hear about them a lot more than they actually go through. But I think that Mac could be really interesting on probably 3 to 5 teams out there right now.
Definitely. And things could happen too where I'll just mention them because we were just talking about them, not saying that there's been any rumors. But like Arizona, for instance, Arizona's got all these wide receivers, and they just picked up a Rondell Moore, and you have guys like Christian Kirk that have been there for years and just can't seem to find any sort of defined, consistent role week in, week out for an entire season on a team. You see a guy like that gets traded to a wide receiver needy team, maybe like we throw them out there all the time, but like a Green Bay. And all of a sudden, a guy like that becomes more interesting, but also the other pieces on that team that didn't seem to have a clear path before. Now those are guys people are wanting to go snag on waivers.
You
You
know
know,
who would? I don't think they would ever do it, but you know who else is in that situation?
hmm,
Robert
who's that?
Woods.
Oh,
The Rams
right.
have
He
a
had
lot of options. I don't think they would consider giving up Woods, but
Yeah, they
like
got a Van Jefferson that they just picked up last year. Been more
Deshaun
involved.
Jackson can hit those plays, and they have Tutu Atwell behind all of those guys that they drafted at a
Yeah,
decent spot in the draft.
yeah, that's a good one. I don't know what his contract. I don't know what their commitment to his contract is, but it seems like teams are always good at being able to figure that stuff out. Let me move these numbers over here. Let me put this on the back end. Okay, we're good. You can be traded.
Right. Well, and Robert Woods likes being there too because he played for USC, right? And he's in LA. So like I think he's interested in staying there. I don't think he's getting moved, but I think like on the field
Right.
and opportunity and just roster comp, like
Yeah.
that is somebody that I could see if we were playing Madden or something, right? That like should be moved because they've used him, got him involved one game through 5 weeks. Like you could be getting some value somewhere else. Turn that
There's going to be
into
a trade. There's going to be a trade like that that's likely to happen. It seems like one of those does happen every year. One of those wide receiver two, like in that territory range on a team, gets moved, and it does have an effect on fantasy. Make somebody relevant that wasn't, and vice versa.
yeah.
Trade talks are
Um,
fun, man, in NFL.
Another thing that just kind of popped into my mind when we were talking about receiver situations, I did read this morning that, or maybe I think it was last night that Cleveland did declare Jarvis Landry to return from IR. I think that means that they
Oh,
have like 2 to 3 weeks to like really commit to that. I think the way that I'm understanding or have seen it play out with a couple other people is that like the first step is that the team declares like this player eligible to return. And then after that, they have I think it's 3 weeks where they can evaluate the situation, and then he's either coming back or he's not. Um, but you had mentioned Felton, and that's an interesting piece. They asked him to like learn and then after the injury assume the Jarvis Landry role, and he hadn't really been as involved as I was hoping for. Even though he does look like he has some quickness and short space speed, um,
mm-hmm.
but it seems like Jarvis Landry might be coming back before too long. So that's
Yep,
kind of interesting.
yep. If he was dropped, I'd be picking him up.
Yeah,
I
for
don't know what
sure.
his roster percentage is. Zach Moss or Alex Collins? Well, we were talking about Alex Collins a little bit ago, and I like Alex Collins. I think he's not a great player, but he's a good player, and he's definitely going to be the main focus this week as far as running the ball for the Seahawks. But no Russell Wilson, that sucks. Going against Pittsburgh, yes, that defense hasn't been completely dominant, but that's a good defense. It's a good defense still. So I have my concerns with Alex Collins. Zach Moss, they're playing the Titans today, right?
Yeah.
Love that matchup. I love Zach Moss's potential to get into the end zone again today. Probably gonna play Zach Moss.
Yeah, I think he's been productive enough and the situation hasn't changed that I'm going to take that over whatever Seattle looks like this week. I mean, we just too many changes out there. On top of all of that, with Russell Wilson and Chris Carson being out, DK's got a foot injury that he's managing. So, I mean, there's just a lot going on there that I'll take the consistency. I'll take the I'll take Zach Moss with no change versus what Alex Collins could be with all of these moving parts. It just kind of freaks me out a little bit.
The no Russell Wilson freaks us out because we don't really know what to expect from Geno Smith. So I mean, at least for me, that's the biggest hang up. And Moss has been pretty consistent. I'll give him that. The last 3-4 weeks, Moss has been pretty consistent. Didn't expect that from anybody, either of the Buffalo running backs, but he's been getting it done. What up, guys? Murray, Gordon, or Bateman? Wait, Murray, Gordon, or Bateman, or Bolden start one. Uh, so you're talking Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon, and then you're talking Bateman, the rookie receiver uh for the Ravens, or Bolden. So this has got to be a flex. I can't start Bateman this week. It's good that you have him. I think it's a nice hold and stash, but I think you have to wait a week with his first week in and just see what he can do. I can't play him this first week though. Brandon Bolden is a pretty uninspiring play. If you're in full PPR, he's a little bit more interesting, but he's been the pass catching back for them for the last 2 weeks, and it hasn't really led to anything. I'm probably going to play Latavius and just hope that he can fall into the end zone again, because anytime they get to the goal line, he is the guy. He's the one that's been getting all the work. And look, dude, Baltimore changes their tune with their running backs like every week, every other week. So it's not safe. But none of those guys are. So I'm probably going to play Latavius, even though I don't like it.
I would.
Would you play Melvin over him?
I would. lean Melvin Gordon. For whatever reason, and there was no.
It's probably not a bad
there were
call.
no reports out there about Tyson Williams, why he wasn't involved or when he was going to get involved, but he was out there again last week, and there's just so much going on there that I'm going Gordon. But I mean, I don't think either are going to be a bad play. It's just for me, it's just more about how much Baltimore has going on and their lack of clarity. Like they just don't talk about it, and then you watch the game and it's like, well, this is what they're doing.
I think the thing you're probably right, honestly, to play Gordon instead. I think the thing that's got me hung up with Melvin Gordon is this injury that he's been dealing with. But he's had this injury for the last week or two, and he's still been out there and played. So I do think more about Melvin Gordon, the player, than I do Latavius Murray. I think Melvin Gordon's more capable. I can agree with you on that. Any truth to Newton to Seattle? Not that I know of. I haven't. The people that I follow online that are usually pretty good providing that information when it becomes available has not said anything about it. I know I did see that Cam Newton got vaccinated, so I don't know if that was a move that was if that move was a motivation for him to get back into the league. I would assume it probably was. So maybe he's looking to go somewhere.
Cam Newton is wild, man, because for whatever reason, some videos had surfaced recently, not surfaced, resurfaced from his like peak in Carolina when they they ran the whole season. They finished the season with like 1 or 2 losses. They just had an incredible year that year, and like he had this swag. I don't know, you might have seen the video, but he's like lined up, and they're playing against like the Packers, I think, and one of the defensive players is calling out the route that they're running. He's like, over here, like pointing out. He's calling out what Carolina's going to play, and Cam looks to that defender on the field pre-snap, like right before they're about to snap the play, and he goes, "Oh, you've been watching film, huh? Watch this." And then
I saw that.
yeah,
I've seen that,
and that's been going around recently, and it's like, it just for me, it like is eye opening to see like where he was and where he is, and I think Cam's fallen so far, and I think it could be more confidence than anything else, but like I don't value Cam Newton as a starting quarterback right now, and I don't think that like age and health are the reason. I think I think it might be more of a mental thing, and that's not me saying that I don't think he could be good again, but like there's something that has to be overcome there for him to be a guy, and I think especially in a Seattle offense where like you would have to do everything that Cam didn't do in 2 years in New England, like I'm not really that interested. I don't think it would move the needle much for me.
I think Cam would be a disaster for that offense because unless Seattle wants to, Seattle's not going to go away from what they do with Russell Wilson because this is a temporary thing. That team is so entrenched in work and being built around what Russell Wilson's so good at, and he's coming back. They're not just going to like change all of that and throw it out the window with the way they play for a short period of time. And so I say that to say, like, Cam Newton's deep ball, it's basically non-existent at this point. And when he used to do it, he was always he was totally hit or miss. He was not somebody you could rely on to hit a deep ball. That's Tyler Lockett. Like, Tyler Lockett lives off that deep ball. And DK Metcalf, how big that guy is. Like, send him on a streak, give him an opportunity, and he can make that play most times. Like, Cam Newton, I don't even think Cam Newton's capable of doing that anymore. If he went there, dude, I'm probably less excited than I am when I have Geno. I'm just saying, I could be mental. I can hear what you're saying with Newton, but I think his shoulder is just gone too. Like when he was throwing the ball in preseason for the Patriots this preseason. He looked better than last year, but the guy still looks like he's like, what do they call those? What is it called? Shot put? Or am I thinking of something else? A track or whatever? Like they have that big ball that's heavy that you have to throw.
Yeah, shot put.
That's what he looks like when he's throwing a football. And he's winding up to throw the ball 15 yards downfield. I just don't think he's whatever injury he had to that shoulder, probably from all those hits he took over his career. I just don't think he's got it anymore.
I mean, it could very well be the case, but I don't think that the Geno Smith thing is like far fetched. But you have to take into consideration it's not like 1-to-1 player for player, but like Geno Smith's been there and he's been working with that offense and he's been getting some reps in, and it's probably limited on how many opportunities he's had with the ones, but like he's been there. He's been like learning that playbook, learning that offense, finding ways for it to work for him. Like there's value in that too. It's not just that we're saying like Geno Smith's a good quarterback and Cam Newton's like, I mean, there's part of that there, but like also the value that he's been there, that Geno's been there with that team.
Yeah.
I mean, that does mean something.
It does. Can't come in and learn. By the time you bring a new guy in and he learns the playbook and you actually get him out on the field, like what are you talking about? You got to get 1 or 2 games maybe until Russ is back.
I think it'd be more interesting from like a fan standpoint than it would be for like football. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird though. He's always had some like accuracy issues. Carolina made it a point to get like catch radius guys for him for a couple years because like even the intermediate stuff was not always on target. It was inconsistent. But like what he was and where he is now, and for his age considered too, it's a bummer, man. It's a bummer. You take a couple big hits and a car wreck, I think, was like one of the bigger ones for him, and things just haven't really been the same. Another guy. Sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say real quick, Justin said it was full PPR, and that just made me lean a little more towards Melvin Gordon from that earlier thing. Because Latavius Murray does not catch passes at all.
Which is probably why Bolden was part of the question, too. I can get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still going Gordon. Just one other name. I mean, we got a little bit of time here before the games start, and we still have an opportunity to pick up some freebies. And when you hit on when you hit on like a free agent pickup right before the games start, I mean, it's great because you just save yourself a lot of waiver investment, 3 days later. So like if you have somebody on your bench at the end of your bench that you're looking at and you're like, no way that I am gonna start him or get some value for him, like it's just a throwaway. Just another name I've been keeping an eye on, and it's going to probably sound crazy at first, but like these situations happen fast. I just want to put a little preface out there. These situations happen fast. When a player's in this situation, usually like it's already pretty far developed by the time we start hearing about it. But we have touched on a couple teams that could be interested. One team, Kansas City, has definitely been interested in adding a running back. Darius Geist this is the last week that he'll be suspended. So he's a free agent. Washington cut him. Everything that he had going on off the field has been like resolved, I guess is what we'll say. I don't want to get too far into all of that, but he is a football player. He's a young football player that in a very small sample size has been productive at the NFL level. He was a freak in college, and I think there might be some interest for NFL teams to add a kid like that too. And I have him stashed on my team, but that's not me saying like I feel like I know this is going to be a thing. But if he were to land in the right landing spot and we have an opportunity to add him right now, I think it's worth considering if you've got a dead spot on the end of your bench. This is a young player that's obviously had some issues, and I don't know what he would look like on a football field today. But if he has been staying in shape and he just needs a little bit of time to catch up, and a team like Kansas City were to pick him up, I would be very interested in it. Not just because it's Kansas City's offense, but also because of what I think he could offer as a football player. There's a couple other teams that, I think I'd still be pretty interested in, but just knowing that Kansas City's out there, I have Mac and Geist on my bench right now, and if one of those guys were to end up in Kansas City, I'd be pretty pumped. So this is definitely a situation where you are not counting on it happening. You just want to take that lottery ticket and see what happens. But I'm not going to be surprised at all if we're sitting here on Monday or Tuesday night and there is a rumor that 3 or 4 teams are interested in picking him up. So if you have it, and by that point they'll be on waivers, and you'll have to spend fab, or you might be too far down the waiver claim priority to get him. It's just something that I think is worth throwing out there. As far as the off the field stuff goes, I have nothing to say about that. I don't want to get into any of that. It's just more that they settled that outside of court. He served a suspension, and he's now eligible to play football next week.
Very fair. Like you said, there's a lot of teams that are going to be looking for running backs, especially as more of them continue to fall. More and more guys are going to get banged up the further we're getting into the season. I will say, it sounds like people that have been in this chat anyway, it sounds like maybe most everybody has Alex Collins or he's picked up in their leagues maybe. But on ESPN, he is only 46% owned. There is a lot of speculation around Chris Carson's injury. I know he went on IR, so that's 3 weeks. So Alex Collins probably, like in most competitive leagues, he may be picked up. But like I said, he is under 50% owned. I would at least check and see if he's still available. He should be added everywhere because there has been speculation that Chris Carson's 3-week minimum 3-week minimum IR could lead to a lot more time than that.
Yeah. And they originally said that it was going to be like a 2-week thing, and now he's on IR. So I mean, they've already been off on that.
Yeah, I've read that depending on the severity of his neck injury or where it is, could even potentially need surgery to get fixed, which obviously would probably be the season. So I'm guessing that the Seahawks are probably just trying to stay cautious, and they just want to put him up for a few weeks and see if he can get better. But there's no guarantee that happens, and it's tough to find starting running backs in fantasy that are available on waivers. Alex Collins should be owned everywhere, and with Russell Wilson too. Like Russell Wilson's going to be back, and then you could potentially have a starting running back for that team for the year. That would be pretty valuable.
Yeah. And just to put into perspective, like I'm way more interested in owning an Alex Collins because we've talked we've done a this guy or that guy kind of thing with Collins a couple times already today, and like we've steered away from Collins a little bit because of how much Seattle has going on. But like I would still be much more interested in having Alex Collins on my team than like Darius Geist. That's like a end, like if you're desperate, looking for upside kind of thing. I just want to keep that clear, like. Just because I was saying like I might not start Alex Collins over a couple guys this week, I'm not like all the way down on him, and there's going to be a lot of potential value there for Alex Collins if Carson's missing time. I mean, and especially like if he needs surgery, you're going to have Russ back too, and you're going to have the running back for Seattle in their normal offense. So I just wanted to make that clear because I didn't say too much about Alex Collins, but like I do think he's got a lot more value, and I think that he's a capable running back.
Yeah. Agreed. Did you see Curtis Samuel might be going on IR again?
No.
He can't get that groin right. He was active, and what did he play in those 2 games? Now he's out again today, and Ron Rivera said that he might go back on IR.
Man.
I don't know when Fitzpatrick's return date is, but we're getting a little bit closer to that time. I think we still got some weeks. But yeah, who's going to be someone there besides Terry McLaurin's got to be a guy to target, right? Or no? Do they not have anybody else good enough?
Well, there was a guy that was like, I want to say because of injuries and COVID, he ran like 6 years in college for Ohio State, maybe, Cam Sims. He's a big dude, like 6'5", and a late bloomer from everything I understood. He didn't even really get that much playing time in college, but somehow like Washington found some interest in this guy, and he's been banged up. So like him not producing yet is because he's been hurt, but I think he would be the other option, that I'd be interested in that receiving core. They did cut the other Steve Sims Jr. in the offseason or early this year, so like Cam Sims was somebody that did start producing. Let's see if he's coming back anytime soon. But he had some production last year. He was somebody that people were paying attention to a little more. So he's on my radar as another option in that receiving core.
I thought Diami Brown, the rookie for North Carolina, was going to be able to step up. And it's hard to judge his team without a starting quarterback. Obviously, that dynamic can change depending on who's throwing the ball to him. But so far, he has been incredibly disappointing. hasn't been able to put anything together. So I was just wondering because, I mean, we got to be here pretty soon. We're going to start hearing Fitzpatrick is back at practice again.
Yeah.
And it can't be all Terry McLaurin. I know Logan Thomas is going to be there too when he's back and active, but like talking receivers here, somebody else has got to be able to produce this on some level there.
Yeah. Cam Sims
Unfortunate
is
for
out
Curtis
again.
Samuel.
He's got a hamstring injury, so we don't know how long that's going to last, but he's not on IR, so he should be coming back before too long. Diami Brown, I kind of forgot about him. I know he was somebody you were interested in. He ended up having a decent game or two, but didn't really do.
He's made nice plays. He just hasn't really hardly been involved. Chris Moore, talk about for Houston. That was the guy. Where did you say he came from, Dub?
Baltimore.
I always forget.
There was
Baltimore.
like 2 or 3 years ago, Chris Moore was the best receiver for Baltimore, and that was like, I want to say it was Hollywood Brown's rookie year, and Chris Moore was there, and he had some chemistry with Lamar Jackson early in Lamar's career too, and I had Chris Moore all over my radar. It was like preseason and maybe even the first couple weeks of the year, and then the further we got into that season, the less Chris Moore was involved, and I didn't really understand it. I think there might be something else that they didn't like maybe they wanted him to be a better run blocker out there because they ran the ball so much. I don't know what it was, but I thought Chris Moore, from a receiving, catching the ball standpoint, was the best guy they had then, and he just faded and faded and faded. But I don't hold that against Chris Moore as much because Baltimore keeps trying to pick guys that they're more interested in on paper. It's been Miles Boykin. It's been I mean, they just keep drafting these receivers at like the low end of the premium draft slots. Like it's Miles Boykin, Devin Duvernay. Now it's Rashad Bateman, and they just keep trying to plug these guys in to a situation that I just don't think was ever really going to be that productive for that offense. So like, I know I'm a little more interested in him than you are, but like, I do think from what I've seen from Chris Moore on the field, I've liked. It's just been scarce, and like for whatever reason, we don't know what that is. Baltimore had no interest in making him a thing.
I will say about Chris Moore, as far as are there eyes on him? Sure, not picking him up though, not yet. But we can watch. Obviously, if somebody has a game like that, and there's an obvious need for another wide receiver outside of Brandon Cooks, then we can pay attention to it. I will say though that Nico Collins is back and activated. He wasn't playing when Chris Moore was there. They do have Danny Amendola. That guy can never stay healthy. He's actually inactive for this game. But when Danny Amendola came back healthy from being hurt, what's his name? They had as a slot player. They cut him from the Bears and then went to Houston, and now he's gone again.
Anthony Miller.
So I'm just saying that they cut him when Amendola came back. So that tells me that they intend to put Amendola in the slot. So you're going to have Amendola, you're going to have Nico Collins. I don't know what these guys are really going to be for Houston, but I think Chris Moore was a benefit this last week of maybe just getting a one-on-one where a wide receiver or where the quarterback was willing to throw it to him. If you saw those plays, it was like a deep bomb, the big one that he made. A fluky play. Hard to trust and rely on something like that. But
he's definitely a guy that's going to have to earn it. I mean, all of those other guys either have a brand in the NFL or have some hype from somewhere. Like Nico Collins was a pretty good college receiver. He was the best we had on a receiver core that had DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Tariq Black, who are also in the NFL now. I mean, not that they're like killing it by any means, but like Nico Collins was that guy with other NFL players on that receivers on that roster. So I think there's a little more to see from Nico Collins. I've kind of thrown his name out there a couple times. I don't think he's going to lose too much time to Chris Moore. I think you'd be looking more at like, what is Danny Amendola today? Is Chris Moore going to force his way onto the field? But if that happens,
Amendola's not making it, so we already know that. Amendola's not making it through a season healthy. He already hasn't, and he'll get hurt again. That's you could almost book that. If I could bet on that, I would.
So when that happens, Chris Moore probably has a bump in value. Yeah, but he's gonna have to force it, and that doesn't always play out that way.
Well, I think we kind of covered everything we wanted to and bullshit a little bit about a few things. We got about 10 minutes till the game start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't look like we got any last minute questions, so
We've
guess we can
got
go ahead and call her. How's that game going right now?
not
This
great for
game's
my
about to go
same
into
game
overtime?
parlay. I think that's the only shot I've got.
It's going into overtime.
We've got
Unless they're in field goal range. I don't have the game pulled
Trevor
up.
Lawrence had another carry and he lost a yard. All right. Listen. I need like 2 to 3 more rushing yards from Trevor Lawrence here. And I think Chenault hit it. He's got 54 yards. So I just need 2 more rushing yards from Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, is this like a same game parlay?
Yeah. Yeah, we need that.
I got.
Jacksonville just hit a field goal to win it.
Oh, did they? Wow.
That's
the
over.
Dolphins just lost to the Jags.
That's over.
Well, Chenault got his reception, so worked out for me.
I lost it.
Yeah, Dallas, appreciate you showing up again, man.
Yeah.
Good luck this week. Hopefully we didn't screw you over on your Knox Hockenson question again this week.
Yeah, well, we watch these after we answer these questions. We watch the games and we pay more attention than you probably realize to what we're throwing out there. And we adjust accordingly. I mean, we're all in a situation to kind of figure this stuff out as it unfolds. But I mean, we're not giving you any different information than we'd be doing with our own lineups. So out here doing the best we can. We're learning with you guys to an extent. You know, I mean, we watch a lot of football and go with our guts on a lot of it. I guess since we do have a minute to fill in here, we do have some viewers in here, a couple new names that I've noticed. So if you guys want to know when we go live Sunday mornings and Tuesday nights. So if you guys want a notification, you want to help support the stream, definitely hit that subscribe button. We definitely appreciate that, but it'll also give you guys notifications to let you know when we go live so you can jump in next time if you'd like. Another thing I kind of wanted to throw out there, I have been repping the soccer jersey today. My in-laws went to Jamaica on vacation. They came back with the soccer jersey. Our boy Cam hit a pretty fat soccer parlay the other night. He ended up, like a 9-legger that he hit on for like $300
that he hit, yeah. 350, something like that on a 9-leg soccer parlay. I don't know if I've ever hit a 9-leg parlay.
No. I missed a 9-leg college football yesterday.
Oh yeah.
We had I picked my teams. I picked all my games that I wanted to for the parlay, and then I saw Eastern Michigan was down 7 early. Like it was first drive. They must have given up a touchdown on the first drive. But Eastern has been playing better, and I plugged them in as a live bet for my 9th leg on the parlay, and that's the only one that didn't hit.
Damn.
I know. I was inspired by Cam though. So props to Cam. Congrats if you're in here for hitting your soccer parlay. Rock the soccer jersey for you.
I got a couple out there today, and I'm just waiting to see which ones screw me over, because I know that's gonna happen.
It's the nature of it.
But hey, we started off strong with Chenault. All right, so we're just gonna keep this momentum going. I'm gonna open up. I got a variety pack of sours in the fridge. I think about 1 o'clock seems proper. I'm gonna kick that off.
There you go. By about 1:45, you'll be cursing.
Be drunk, shot with TV.
Yep. Dallas looking to go 6-0. That's a hell of a start to the season, man. I hope you keep it up.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we're gonna get into watching some football, cursing our fantasy teams. Hope to catch you guys again on Tuesday. But we do appreciate anyone that stopped by, everyone that asked questions. That's what we're here to do. We love it. So thanks for tuning in. Definitely appreciate it, and we will catch you guys next time.